Yep, looks like live. Okay, cool. Actually, 1 minute, we'll just turn that round. Greetings all, how you doing? Hope you're well. Just kind of mucking around here at home for a wee bit, so I thought I'd just go live. A little bit of time on my hands. Just want you to be aware of that. Caveat emptor. Let those that be deceived, or as the Greeks put it, buyer beware. So, and that applies to everything that I talk about in all my videos, of which you can come and check out right there, like the norm. Trying to get me subscribers up, so if you feel you want more food for thought from the smorgasbord of truth, come and check me out sometime. Right, I'm just going over some things here. Lots of people talking about freedom and wanting freedom and that. Well, it incurs a certain amount of responsibility. As Sigmund Freud said, most people don't really want freedom because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. See, that's because you're liable, and that's the ability. It's the ability to be able to respond to things. That's how that works. That's how that works. And it takes takes all sorts of interesting things to ascertain and to become informed. So these are types of questions we should be asking. Because as you know before, in the quest ion, you're as king. Okay? And we're all on a quest, and that takes curiosity. And I'm a little bit of a curious George, so I like looking into these things. It's good to have some reference books too. It's all handy to have. A few people were asking me about my books in my library, so it's good to have some reference books in your library. I've got all sorts of things here. We've got all different codes, because here's the thing, you see, everything's code, folks. Everything's code, as I've talked to you before about code. And that's where we've got to learn to de-sign and de-script and decipher. Otherwise we end up being dead in the water, and then we're in a lull, in a lullaby, and then we get the Lucifer happening. So we've got to get out of that, and we've got to be able to decipher codes, we need the keys. You'll see that's yes in there, the silent K of course. And then we have the O-pen, because the pen is what contracts us, of course. So we want to O-pen things. So yeah, and that takes a bit of responsibility, and that takes a little bit of nous on your own part to start looking into these things. And that comes back to, buyer beware. Do your own research, look into these things, check out the things that I'm telling you, and what's going on. Because in all honesty, folks, the powers that be have to tell you exactly what they're doing to you, and they are. Once you start to understand the language that's being used, as I say, it's all code. There's iconography of religions and the symbolism, Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung. And of course it's good to have some biblical references as well, because that's the law. Biblical, ecclesiastical, actually I'll prove that to you, that they're two different laws, because over here from, I think the earliest one I have there is the 1867 volume 1, and that's Admiralty and Ecclesiastical Courts. See that? So they're two different, very different courts. Ecclesiastical, Admiralty jurisdiction, Admiralty banking commercial jurisdictional law. That's law of the sea. And as I've said to you with my board, law of the sea is rape, pillage and plunder. It's Admiralty commercial banking law, law of the money. It's the law of the sea, I'll show you how that works, because it's mercy. See the mercy, mer-see, merchants, commerce, and that's money. Money, the one eyes, the dollar bill, dollar is dolans, Latin dolans means pain, and they want you to be ill. That's how that works. Mercy is the French word for thank you, and mercy in the old, it meant money. So that's how that works. You see, that again, they've got to tell you what's going on, but you've got to learn to decipher and decrypt these things, because it's all in code, and you've got to find the keys to the code, because they tell you it's in code. So we've got to get into learn how to start breaking some of these codes, and to do that we have to have some reference books. To have reference books, we all need to be able to refer to history. So these are some of the books I've got. I like the old dictionary books, because again, the definitions of words, the further you go back in time with your books too, you'll find the greater the definitions and the more refined and pertinent the definitions are. They'll give you a lot more detail. Collegiate dictionaries, most justices of the peace there in police courts practice. That's a New Zealand one there too, it's quite an old one. My oldest one here is the Leakey's Digest of Law Contracts. Chambers, 20th century dictionary there. Law of contract. We've got mercantile law in New Zealand. Mercantile banking law. Commerce, folks, that's what it is. Law of the sea, the merchants, the mercantile. Dictionary of English synonyms and antonyms there. Modern English usage. This one's the law and the Constitution. This one here, Cassell's Latin Dictionary. Oh, you've got to have a Latin dictionary, folks. You've got to get yourselves a Latin dictionary. Of course, there's ones online. There's one there, the New Zealand Company Secretary. This one here is a very interesting book, actually. The New Zealand Company Secretary. Very interesting. Webb's Partnerships. Laws of Leadership, that one. This is Graw's Introduction to the Law of Contract in New Zealand. A couple of editions of that one. Again, very, very pertinent material to be able to refer to. Because even the digital stuff, the stuff that you can get online, they can change that, folks, but they can't change old texts, okay? So the older the dictionaries you can get your hands on, the better. Here's Speeches and Documents of New Zealand History. David McIntyre and W.J. Gardner. Now the Mercantile Law book there, that's the 6th edition. I think the other one was the 7th. Yeah, it's the 7th edition. Cave Painting to Comic Strip, another book that shows that, see, you've got to realise that these are all symbols. You know, our alphabet, the alpha beta is the sine wave, the alpha, or the beta and the alpha, the beta, that's how that goes. It's a sine wave. And to sign something, when you sign something, you become a signatory. You become a signatory to it. You see, you put your mark. X marks the spot. In the old days, people couldn't write. They didn't know the alpha beta. They hadn't been tortured yet. And that's why they schooled you. You start as an infant, infantile, infantasy, become chilled as a child, and then you adulterate as an adult, but you're a signatory. You become a signatory, okay? That's the nature of your sign. But you becoming a signatory of something. And when they ask for your name on a document, because they dock your mind, your vessel, your ship in the port of their construct of commercial banking, admiralty, jurisdictional law. That's what they do. They park your vessels there. But you keep signing things and becoming a signatory with your surname. It's an SUR name. SUR is a surety. You're becoming a surety. I'll show you. See the SUR, it's a bit bright now. I have to move that over there. You become a surety. I'm actually in the process, I was actually in the process here of, the other board was getting a bit messy, so I wanted to redo it. So what was I doing? This surety. So SUR, surname. It's not SIR, is it? I don't ask you for your surname or your family name. It's your SUR name when you sign something. You sign something on the line because you're above board, aren't you? You're on the line. Something's on the line, all right? And if it's capitalised, it's cut off because the capitis diminutio maximus cuts off everything. Capital, capitis. I can't write with my left hand, actually. I'm holding. But you become a surety through your signature because you're a signatory. And that's where you put your mark. And X marks the spot. And so that puts you into, you know, where you're in a place where you need mercy. Because that's what's going on. So, and again, it's by the language, it's through the spelling. This is all spelling, it's all casting spells. And it's all designed, to take away your power, your authority, your ability to become the author of the writs and the rights. That's what they do. They take away the authority, or they usurp your authority through getting you to become a signatory to all these contracts. They contract you. That's how that works. And they tell you exactly what they're doing, because they have to. But they'll use all sorts of lovely flowery language to do that. And they'll give you certain, on the surface, meanings of certain words, but once you start to delve a little bit deeper and start to look into the actual meanings of some of these words, start getting yourself some old reference books that can't be tampered with. You know, there's all sorts of skullduggery going on out there that are just forms of deception, trying to deceive you of your power and your authority. And unfortunately, we're all getting, well, most people getting duped into it and signing all their rights away. I think there's, you know, you're born with rights, but there's also obligations, folks. Those rights comes with obligations and responsibilities, the ability to be able to respond to things. And if you're not getting the right type of information, or you're being deceived through the casting of spells, through the language of deception, which English is, known as an equivocal language, and you're not contesting the con, see, that's how that works. It's a consent. If you're not testing the consent, you're giving consent all the time. You're jumping from the world of the living over into the world of the dead, of the legal fiction, of the person, the persona, the corporation, the corpse. It's oration. That's a Latin word. Corpse is a dead entity. Oration is to speak. It's dead body speaking. And what do they call it? They call that company. Don't they? They use that lovely word, company. And everyone wants company, don't they? Everyone wants company, don't they? But be very careful, folks. Be very careful, because you can get duped very easily. Especially when you put your pen, when you put your mark on the page. The king had pages too. The king had pages that would go out to the north, the east, the west and the south, and bring back the information, the things that were going on in the dominion of the king, the kingdom, the domain of the king, the dominion, the rule, the authority of the king. And that's where you can become as king, by asking the quest ion and being the author of the questions. Then you're as king, you see. You don't want to be any of these types of kings, though. There's a war king, and a working. Be careful of those ones. Interesting in there, though, is kin, which is kin, which is mankind, which is to kindle. And kin in the Japanese language is gold, and that's gold. And it's all relative, because that's your family, that's your kin, isn't it? That's pretty relative. That resonates because it's got reason and the nature of it. The nature of that resonates. It's relative. That's your family, folks. That's how that works. It's in the language, it's telling you. If you start to look in the language and start to learn to decipher, descript and design these codes, you will start to see exactly what's going on, because that's current then, isn't it? That's current then. And you like to, because we sail by. Most people sail by. That's what they do when they see the current sea. They don't realise that the banks on the sides of the rivers control the currents to the sea. But that's the mercy again. See, we're back in the sea. You're back in that commerce, that commercial, admiralty, banking, jurisdictional law. So you've got to do a bit of research. See that sea in there? See the sea? There's an ark in there as well. Because ark's very important when you're on the sea. You need a vessel, don't you? Re is to do again. There's your searching. Research the ark. Is that what that is? Is that what that's telling you to do there? What's the ark? It's the covenant, isn't it? It's a cove where you park a ship, isn't it? The cove, covenant. And they secrete things, don't they? And that's the arch, folks. It's the spark. You see that? And that's current. That's current. See, that's energy. That's consent. Because when you plug into a consent, you're in a chord then. And then you're in line. And then you're in a tune and an atonement and accordance. And you have the ability to respond because you're powering up the vibration, you see, and the arc. And if you touch that arc, it's a frequency of wave. It's measured in hertz. Of course it hurts. That arc, because it comes back to the ability to be able to respond. And if you're all dumbed down by all the bullshit, by all the codes, by all the coding, you're all dumbed down, then you're not able to spark and arc. You see how that works? And denial of the arc really does hurt. You've been disembarked. See, that's how that works. It's the language of the sea, because it's about the vessels. It's about your vessel on the sea of the stormy waters out here, folks, navigating the high seas that are unfathomable. See, because the sea is measured in fathoms, and it's unfathomable. Fathoms, also you'll find the seas in volume, see? The volume, it's voluminous. Volume, sound. Sound is where you need to get back to, folks, because sound is on the land. Because when something's sound, it's solid. That's how that works. But when you're in the sea, it's voluminous, meaning it's measured in fathoms. That's unfathomable. That's the legacy, the leagues of the sea. And that's why you'll find, where is it? You'll find, which is quite interesting, I've got it here somewhere. Holy blood, no, here we are. See, crisis, this one here's, you look at this one. No, I didn't get back to the other one here. Crisis in the history of the papacy. The papacy. Do you see that? You see that? It's right in front of your faces when you start to read the language, the duplicity of the language, because it's the language and the symbology and the interpretation, the decipherment and the decoding of those languages that is the most important part of comprehending what's going on. Because once you can decipher things properly, then you're able to comprehend things properly. And then we're really able to see. Back to the see again. Do you see? So we need to record. Get back in alignment. Get back into the vibration and to attune. Then we're at one, you see. We attune. We're in a chord dance. A chord. Chord's a note. A note is a tune. A tune is a sound. A sound is a vibration, which is power, which is energy, which is knowledge, which is now, which gives you the ability to be able to respond. That's how that works, folks. It's pretty simple stuff. Well, for those with eyes to see. I see. CIA. Divide, to multiply, to add, and then to take away. Twice. That's how that works. Because you see, you're out there on the roads, which are shipping lanes, because they have islands in the middle of the roads, okay? You have a left lane and a right lane, there's shipping lanes. You're out there in commerce, and you're open for salvage, folks. That's why they charge you up. They charge you up, fine you, and give you a ticket. The ticket reconfirms that you're a passenger again, that you're back on board the ship of commerce, because you're being contracted out through your signature, through the pen, through the power of the pen. That's how that works. And then you're back over here into the corporation, the dead entity. You've got your persona, because you're certified at birth, you see. The ship's been parked at the birth, at the doctor, to be ill. In the ward, you're a ward of the state. That's why you're a ward of the state. In a den, you're a war den. And it's all about war, because that's why they war rant. They rant about war. I've got that here somewhere. Rant. See, they rant about the war. And they charge you up, because then you're caught. That's when you're caught. See, this is all, the language is all language of the sea. It's unfathomable. And it's from the Phoenicians, because it's full of the phonics. See the phonics there? The phonics, the Phoenicians, the sea-bearing race. They were racing, all right. Sea-bearing. They were bound. The phonics. See, ships are bound, aren't they? Vessels are bound. Which is binding. Which is a code. Which again is what everything is in. It's all in code. So, very important we learn to decipher and to be able to have the eyes to see what's going on. You know, have the real eyes to realise the real lies. That's how that goes. You all kind of know that one these days, I think. So it's very important that we comprehend that we're being told exactly what's being done to us through the language. Because that's the gauge of the land, isn't it? The language, the gauge. If you look at gauge in a Latin dictionary, you go to a Latin dictionary, I'm going to pull it out because I'll be here all day kind of thing, but it's Latin, folks. You know, our language, the gauge of our land, or the equivocal language known as the English language, or the commoner, which is the commoners, and the commoners are revolting, aren't they? The commoners are revolting, remember? And it's a vulgar language. It's the language of the vulgar we've been given. And what's built into it, through the Phoenicians, through the phonetics, through the phony, the side of it, is a whole level of spelling, which is going on. And it affects us on a level that keeps us in a state of anxiety. And when we think we're communicating, we're not communicating, folks. We're dissing and cussing. We discuss and we con and we verse. Because it's a dialogue. It's a lexicon, isn't it? They tell us exactly what they're doing, folks. They've got to. They call us the general public because we're in the military, because we're on the waters, because we're open for salvage. We are the general public. Oh no, they call us the mean public, don't they? The mean population. Because they use you all. When you're general, they use you all. That's usual, isn't it? The mean population. Oh, that's the commoner. That's the goyim, isn't it? The layman, the Amalek. It depends how far back you want to go. But this is what's going on, you see. And they know you're the land because they tax the land. That's how that works. So you've got to be vigilant and ask why. See that? That's how that works. Because it's a tax. A tax here and a tax there. And the department, D is to undo in front of words, like depopulation is to undo. Parts and ment is mind. So they're called the inland revenue, folks. The inland revenue. Not sea, not water, not air, land. So there's a big hint there. And you're paying, aren't you? You're paying when they tax you. That's how that works. But you're all agreed. You're all agreed on your tax. Because they get you to fill out the form. And then you're informed, aren't you? You're in the form. And you assume, make an ass of you and me, and you presume. That's what you do. Put your ink, your signature, which is, ink is a solution, isn't it? Back in the water. That's how that works, folks. Because if you don't sound the ink, you sink. You see, that's how that works. Because sound is to speak. See, sound is sound at its peak, is to speak. That's how that works, folks. So there we go. Hey guys. Sorry, I just rattle on a lot and just don't quite tune in with who's there. G'day Joe. G'day Luke. G'day Michelle. How you doing? Hope you're having a good day out there. So yeah, I was just actually cleaning up my board a wee bit over here, because this is the board of contract, the board of the living and the dead, and how we get into the different jurisdictions through the consent and without testing the con. My board's been a little bit rubbed out in places, so I was actually over here redoing it, and just thought I'd chime in with see who's out there. I haven't done a live for a wee while, so thought we'd get back into a real state again, get back on the land, because that's where you are when you're living, because it sounds good. It's a good sound, that's volume, that's speaking, that's voluminous, that's solid though. See, that's ground, is foundation. Then you're on common ground. Common is local, oh, that's what I was going to actually. And then you get back to the common law, which is, if you start looking into, this one's a New Zealand legal system, introduction to, oh that's right, that's where I was going. I do sometimes get a little bit sidetracked there. But, yeah, common law. So I did a bit of a talk on common law, and it's good to have some older books that give the definitions of common law, but very revealing, some of it. I might just go through this first chapter here actually, but I mean there's equity and the Court of Chancery, adversary systems, all sorts of different parts to it. But basically, traditionally, the major source of our law is the common law. Okay, common law, common man on the land. That's what that is. The Māori, arguably, tikanga is their definition of it here in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Te Ika Maui, but anyway. And until the avalanche of statutes in the 20th century, this was in a preeminent position as a source of law. So, and it was preeminent because it was looked to a lot more. But today, we still have common law, but it's not looked to as so much. In today's realm, we have of course, we have the rules, regulations, acts, statutes, and legislation, the bills, the BLs, they get you to BL, and it's their authority, and the authorities attacks through the tax department through force, fear and intimidation, because it's, again, if you don't pay your taxes, you'll knock on the door, the police will be there, and they're the police force. So police are policy enforcement officers, folks. They're there to enforce the policy, to police the sea, the papacy, the same thing. These guys have got a crisis in, you know, crisis in the history of the papacy. And there's all sorts of problems with it, you know, when you start looking at the story, because it's his story, whose story? And this is what we need to start be questioning. And there's some really good books out there. Got the legal system, companies, law, statutes. Company, see there's that word, company. They love that company. Oh, we all like company, don't they? Don't we? Contract law in New Zealand. They love to contract, you know, they contract you. That's what they do. To get you into contractions. You ask any mother about contractions and they'll tell you it's pretty painful. Oh, you can't go too far outside the law without comprehending. I'll just put it off there. This here. Now, unless you start really delving into, see that? The Royal Ark. You see that? See, they're onto it. These guys, they know what's going on. They know exactly what's going on, folks. They tell you. They've got to tell you what's going on. So that's Freemason's Guide and Compendium. That one I managed to get my little hands on. Trademarks and names. Put your mark. What's your trade? I'm Smith. So yeah, good to have. This one here's a bit of a groundbreaker too, about the Company of New Zealand. Fatal Success, folks. There's another fatal success there. That was by Patricia Burns and edited by Henry Richardson. That's the history of the New Zealand Company. There's that company again, folks. Love a bit of company. All sorts in there. Shakespeare's works. For whom the bell tolls. For whom the bell tolls. Old Ernest Hemingway, eh? A bit of Kurt Vonnegut in there. Plus I've got a lot of historical books here too. New Zealand Church History. Fascinating stuff. New Zealand Guide. Older version there. Read a few of these. I've read most of these. If I haven't read these books, I've at least peeled through them and you know, delved into them. Oh yes, of course, we've got to look into these. See, look at this. This is how they tell you again. See, it's the Royal House of Britain, and enduring. Look at that word. Dynasty. See that? An enduring dynasty. They're going to tell you what's going on. When you start to decipher the words and look at them phonetically, and start to oh yeah, a few Tony Simpson's. Vision Betrayed, Maori. I've got some historical books here, some good history books in New Zealand, The Coming of the Maori, Te Hiroa, Historic Places New Zealand, Napuhi Speaks, a couple of other ones here. A bit of travelling, it's good. Mythology of the World, Serpents in the Sky, but Arthur C. Clarke stuff there, all sorts of stuff. So I'll just go through a bit of my books as well, because people did ask me. Oh yeah, The Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Brilliant book. Absolutely fantastic. Could read some of these. Bhagavad Gita parts 1 and part 2. Oh yeah, one of my real pride and joys are these here. This is a hardcover, original copies of The Secret Doctrine. Madame Blavatsky. Absolutely incredible book. Absolutely amazing. Theosophists. Anyway, because these are all recorded, you see. Again, there's that chord, the chord dance. Got to get in a chord dance with things. So again, words. Very powerful stuff. And you've got to become the authors of those writs, or those rights, okay? But those rights, let's get back to that, entail a bit of responsibility and a bit of obligation. Oh, that wrong computer. That one there. Okay, so they entail responsibility, the ability to be able to respond for things, and that entails you being informed and aware and awake and wise and questioning and as kings and as queens out there, you know, acting and with the ability to respond, because it's a stage, folks, a stage of life. It's your life. And it's current, okay? It's current. You are the spark, the sound at its peak, so get out there, raise yourselves up, get your voices heard, be in a tune, be in a chord, And that's pretty much it, really, I think. So yeah, so if you you like that, I'm going to post this up on Not the Norm, my YouTube channel there. That's my icon. I don't think there's anything else I wanted to really cover. See, there's all sorts of... I've got a lot of these books over the years, different markets and places and bookstores and second-hand shops. So yeah, so I'm a book hound. I love them. I love books, because books, you know, they can't be changed or altered, and the further back you go with the books, I mean, the more detailed the information you're going to get from them. Fantastic things. So yeah, unfortunately, where is it? Unfortunately, we're getting all caught up and trapped in... Oh, where is it? So, different laws anyway. The two different laws, folks. So there's the... See, I'm not religious, man, because religion, as I've gone over with you people, is to bind. But here's the law. This is the law. Because like, in the beginning there was God. You go to any religion, they'll start with God, right? And God made man, okay? Now, man made all sorts of things. But he didn't make the law. God made man. He gave him inalienable rights. Actually, here's a good one too, folks. You need to... It's inalienable. It's not unalienable, okay? Because your rights are unalienable. Your rights are not unalienable, they are inalienable, okay? They can be alienated, and this is how it's done. It's done through you becoming a signatory to contracts that are binding, that bound you to not this law, but this law, legal system, company statute, Crimes Act. These are the laws, criminal law, contract law. These are the laws you're being bound by. Those are the books you're being bound by, and that stuff's unfathomable because it's colour of law. And that's determinable by how happy the judge is on the day, unfortunately. And if you want to hand over your authority to individuals who are very aware of this game that's being played, then good luck to you. But, you know, you see where that's been getting us. So it's time you step up as kings and queens, start questioning a few things, get out of this dynasty, even though we are questioning everything twice. I say question everything twice. That's a rain too. See, it's raining. That dynasty rains because it gets you back in the water. You see, and you think you're well. And you go, oh, welcome and well done. No, it's not well done. Yeah, you are well done. It's condone. Because you condone. See that? I'll show you that. Maybe I'll give you that one before we go. See, it's condone, isn't it? They like to condone things. Look at it, it's the con being done. The con's done. So you condone it through the power of this pen here. You become a signatory to the contracts that disempower you and take all your energy away, and it charges you up. It charges you up emotionally, because emotion is energy in motion, isn't it? That's what emotion is. They emotionally charge you up, and they call it a fine and a ticket, and you think you're a passenger because you're back on board in the commerce again. People who have tickets are passengers, folks. So when you're on the road, you're not driving your car, because driving is someone who's partaking in commerce on the road. Okay, you're travelling. And you don't have passengers in your cars, because passengers have bought a ticket. Okay, you're back in commerce. You're not in commerce. You have guests. That's how it works, folks. Once you start using the language and changing the words and redefining them, then you become the author of the right. And that's the place you want to be, isn't it? With good standing on the land, with solidity and affirmed, an affirmation. That's what that is. Because you have respect and you've done your research. Respect, that's your perspective. That's an aspect, you see. It's a spectacle. And you're a spectator. Because you become a signatory. No, you want to take off the persona and the caricature that they give you. and standing up to the power and the intuition and the knowledge and the lights that we are, the gift of divinity that we truly are, folks. In your power, not inalienable. Those responsibilities too, there. You know, you have obligations and responsibilities with those rights, folks. When you become the author of the right, you have responsibility. You have not feigned liability. You see how that works? The ability to lie. See, when you go into contract, you're over here. You're over here where there's the ability to lie, there's deceit, there's deception. It's arbitrary. They have courts of arbitrary. Arbitrary is tyranny because it's random, folks. It's whatever they want. There's your colour of law in your arbitration. You go to arbitration to decide. To decide. No, you want to remember. We don't want to decide. Okay, so they get you back into the contracts and the liability. You feign the liability. Over here, you have responsibility, folks. You have 100% responsibility over here. And that's why it's easy to feign it over into the world of the dead through the contacts, the statutes, and your insurance, your insurity. You're insured. Do you see how that works? See, there it is there. Actually, I'll do these ones again. It's insure. Because you become a surety through the signature, the nature of your sign. That's how it works. They tell you what's going on, folks. So there, hopefully we've given you a bit more of insight into the dialogue and the lexicon. So let's start communicating. Let's get away from dissing and cussing and conning and versing and start getting back to a real language. A language of vibration, energy, sound. Folks, that sounds good, eh? That sounds real good. Okay, I might leave it there. Actually, better get the date and time. What was the date today? It's 11:54. It's the 8th of the 3rd, 2021. Coming from you live in Nelson, Aotearoa. Yeah. So yeah, tune in to me, Not the Norm. I used to have a radio show. No, I haven't got a radio show anymore. And you can check me out here. If you want to find me on Facebook, there I am. So, yeah. So get up there, folks. Stand up. Take responsibility because you have the ability to be able to respond, to find your voice, to find your sound at its peak. Takes a bit of knowledge. That gives you power, though, man. And that gives you enlightenment because it's a vibration. Then you're in a tune. Then you are in accordance. Then you can give your informed consent. Not their informed consent, yours. And then you're really current. And then you're at the peak of things. And then you're the brightest light you can be because you've decoded the stuff. You found the keys. Yes. Now we can go forward, folks. Hey. Okay, love and light to you all. I'll catch you again next time.